Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Weekly Controversies podcast. I am Tony, and I'm joined this week by my co-host Jamie Coleman, and I'm also joined.
No. Jamie Coleman, are you for real? Are you for real? Like, seriously. Jamie Coleman, again. This is the second week in a row. It was Martin last week, and now you this week call me Jamie Coleman. It's an insult. Absolute insult. I'm absolutely disgusted with this insult. This is the worst insult of Weekly Controversies.
Yeah, that's enough on the Jamie Coleman. Anyways, welcome to the Weekly Controversies.
Once again joined by our friend from across the Irish Sea, Mr. Mark.
Good evening, lads.
We are hot on the road to WrestleMania. In fact, we are 3 weeks out for WrestleMania, and we thought we would kick that road off by talking about our favourite and not so favourite moments from WrestleMania. We usually do have a golden co-host, but due to work commitments, he is not with us tonight, but he is here in spirit, seeing as they released a belt catered to him and they do the shop not even an hour ago.
But not only that, he's preparing for his match against Cody, which, by the way, if anybody noticed in the background, this is a man who's going to finish his story on April.
I have no issue with the picture being there. Do not press play, or we cannot air the video here into this podcast.
I get it. I'm not pressing the play button, but it's here in its glorious fashion because you say he's a crybaby and you say whatever you want about his goofy ass dog rock, but you have to listen to the facts.
Listen, you do that because the week going back from Mania, I'm going to have my telly on with Roman standing tall and Victory.
That is not going to happen.
It is because he's nearly 200 days off beating Hogan's record. There's no way they're going to let it slip 200 days shy of beating his record.
Want to finish second of all time? Like, no, it's not going to happen.
I'm telling you, he's beating Hogan's record and then he's dropping the strap.
Oh, but that's going to be for another,
200 plus days. 200 plus days and he beats Hogan's record. It was the same last year. He was like 150 days off being 1,000 days champion, and he held the belt to get to the 1,000-day marker.
But they know that if he done it again with Roman beating Cody, it's just another waste of our time, like last year. It's
not wasting my time. Not wasting my time.
No, it's another way. Like they're pushing them. Even the WWE 2K24 game, which get their copies now, they're literally saying finish the story, finish your story. Like literally, this is the biggest thing in professional wrestling going into WrestleMania. It's literally like he has to finish it. I know there's going to be the tag team match on night one, which is going to be epic. You don't know what way it's going to play out with the build and stuff like that. But the matter of the fact is, he's going to finish the story. There's no other ways about it. And you just can't accept it. You rock fucking dickheads and Roman dick riders are just on the fact that, he's the Tribal Chief and he's on this course to break Hulk's record. But then you have an American Nightmare behind him. And
we had this conversation last year, and I told you Cody wasn't winning, and none of you believe me, and Cody didn't win. And he's all heartbroken. He's not setting himself up for heartbreak again.
He's got to win this time. They put themselves into a corner. If they don't put him over now,
can I just point out
put themselves in a corner
that The Rock lost twice to Austin before The Rock eventually beat Austin.
It was different.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. There were 3 matches at 3 different Manias that did not lose momentum. It doesn't mean that Cody can't come back the following year and win the belt and still have that momentum.
It does. I mean, storyline, kayfabe. The Rock did say
they only shoved the story so back in our face after the Survivor Series. It's not even giving kayfabe and story.
Yeah,
they didn't mention it. They didn't mention the story for a whole year until after War Games.
He said the Rock.
A year after. That's the thing. It wasn't a year after.
There was no mention of that story for a year. For a solid year after, for nearly a solid year.
The Rock specifically said you cannot fight for this title ever again should you lose as well. So he kind of dropped himself in it. It's clear. It's clear as day Cody goes over.
Yeah, as long as Roman has it. Roman won't have it the next time he challenges for it.
I mean, we're not previewing WrestleMania today, but to be honest with you, if we were, I'd rather talk about the Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins match, which I think is very,
we would have fun.
Very intriguing.
We would have fun when we're previewing that because it's getting us all talking, and we're slightly going off topic because we are here to talk about our worst and our favourite moment of WrestleMania. And then probably if we waited the next couple of weeks, Jamie's worst moment will be Cody losing again, but who knows?
It's some prick. Absolute some prick.
So,
Um,
we've
who's going to
40
start this
years of
off?
Mania. There's a plethora of moments that any of us could pick as our favourite and our worst.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be a gracious host, and I'm going to hand over to Mark and ask Mark for a favourite WrestleMania moment.
And why not? Let me kick us off with one memorable moment for me. So, picture the scene. My first WrestleMania party in Glasgow at the campus bar. And it's myself, it's Aaron, a few of my friends. We all decided to get a few drinks in. At the time, we've got these massive, long, almost like alcoholic Tango Ice Blast style thing. I think they're Venoms or something like that. Um,
It's like a tequila glass, was it? It's like a big huge tequila.
yeah, like
It's like those
an
big
hourglass. So a few of those in,
Yeah.
and we had a few friends with us who weren't quite as interesting as us. And I'll give you the year. It's 2017, and a few of my friends are like, back in the day, 2004, 5, 6. I miss Mr. Kennedy. I miss um, Edge and Christian, and I miss the Dudleys. The good old days sort of thing. So you guys might remember the tag team match, the ladder match, and if you're going to have one of those, you got a big comeback coming your way. We don't often get comebacks these days, which aren't spoiled by the internet. But back in 2017, having wrestled the night before for an independent promotion, don't think
Yeah,
anyone
Ring of Honor.
could have expected to see the Hardys return. And I will never forget the pop in the bar, never mind the arena. You could probably hear us in that bar in Glasgow all the way at the stadium at that point. But yeah, that is my first pick.
I was at a wrestling
Oh,
party that night as well. I was in Buskers on the ball, packed. The place was packed full of wrestling fans because it was before COVID, so it was still the cool thing to do, go to parties. But I'd say Tampa Bar was rocking and was screaming along when that music hit
yeah.
because there's no more. You probably couldn't name a team as iconic in those matches. Well, there's two other teams you could name that are just as iconic in those matches, but the Hardy Boys, Team Extreme. And I'm actually happy that that was the fourth thing you picked because it just so happened that announced last night on Raw, we are having a six-pack ladder match at WrestleMania for the undisputed tag team championships. It also just happens that that team are now officially free agents once again,
It does look it, and it's interesting. But at the
but they're not the
same
only
time,
team that are 100% cleared and 100% free agents.
who are you alluding to now?
I believe there's a team who are the master of a 3D that are also free agents who just got their own belt in WWE shop.
I like the keen eye
We do need
spotting
six
that.
teams, and I believe that's the night they split the belt. And
I
that is the
love the
night they split the
theory.
belt. I do believe that's why we're getting that match. One person will grab the blue, one person will grab the red. They'll fall, split the titles.
Who's gonna look older and less mobile in the ring? The Team Extreme with Matt
I don't.
Hardy, who could barely walk, and Jeff, who,
It,
I mean, don't know if you
I
watched his
mean,
He's an
recent
awful
stuff.
concussion at the moment.
no
Yeah.
disrespect to Matt Hardy, none at all. But if I was booking it and I had to pick a team to slot in there that I think would give a good match and not mess up, I'd probably give it to the Dudleys because Jeff unfortunately has kind of gone back and
The
slipped
sad
up.
thing is,
And
I would say they're my favorite tag team of all time. The Hardys probably share that with a lot of people,
I think
but
anyone that grew
I,
up that
I
area would say the same thing.
yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. I'd love to disagree with you, Tony. You know that, but now that the Hardys now for the last couple of years, haven't watched them, I'm a bit like it's kind of awkward to watch. Love the guys, respect everything they did in the business, but it's just kind of at that stage where I don't think they have any real reason to be on weekly television. Big matches like that, maybe, but do I really want to see Jeff Hardy throw himself off a ladder again? Don't know. Maybe not for me.
His edge.
After
I
no,
feel
that was Matt.
that.
Never mind. It'd be dangerous for him if he's at the relapse as well. Like no disrespect to Jeff, but me, I've loved. Some of my favorite moments in wrestling are related to Jeff. More so Max and more of a Matt fan, but still. But Jamie, we're not trying to throw you away. Have you got
Yeah,
any
no,
memories of that return? Have you got any memories of that return that night? Were you
yeah, no.
amongst wrestling fans?
I was gonna put in, yeah. So I was at a friend's house when that WrestleMania happened. Yeah, we were all excited as we were, and when they did come out, it was like what everyone else was. Everyone was just popping for the Hardys coming back, and I actually did watch that match against the Young Bucks for the ROH World Titles, and it was the main event actually, weirdly, at that Supercard of Honor. So for them to go and have that unbelievable match that weekend, to then go into another ladder match with more wrestlers, just go to show that they were willing to take the opportunity of coming back and then, winning the Raw tag titles and becoming like one of the most like exciting tag teams again. Now we know that Raw wasn't memorable, other than probably them splitting and going their separate ways, but it was for a moment with WrestleMania with what the Hardys have done at WrestleMania before. It was just an amazing moment. But when you're talking there about all these free agencies and the Dudley's probably coming back, he did announce on Raw last night though that none of these are going to probably come back because he's announced the teams. It's not like it's open for discussion on who's going to be in there. He's announced the teams that are going to be in it. So
They didn't announce things that are going to be in it.
he did. He showed it. He showed the actual teams who are going to
They
be
only
in it.
announced the Judgment Day. They haven't announced any of the other teams.
No,
They said there was going to be qualifying matches. They didn't.
All
They
I
said there was
know
going to
is,
be They said the Judgment Day were in it, and then everyone else had to qualify. They didn't mention any of the other 5 teams
then why did they show DIY, the Creed brothers? Why did they show all
because
that?
they're
Because
wrestling
I've
next
seen
week
that.
on Raw for a spot in the match.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Tony is
I
right.
thought he just showed it. I thought he
No,
just showed it, and
DIY and the Creed brothers. See, this is what I hate because both them is here to be in that match. They have DIY against the Creed brothers for a spot in the match. Where I would have both of them in that match because they're both really good teams.
Too early for the
But
Creed brothers, I think. But you're right; they
I
deserve
do,
a spot.
for once, I can agree with WWE's commentary and I can say, yes, the WWE tag division is booming. There's a tag team for every brand, we can go to NXT, we can get, if Baron Corbin's allowed to come back to the main roster, we can get the Spear Dogs, whatever they're calling themselves.
Oddly,
yeah.
Chad Gable is not in it. It will be Tozawa and
I
Otis.
I am not impressed that Chad Gable didn't win last night, but we're not here to talk about last night's Raw.
Yeah, but yeah, it was an amazing moment, honestly, and it's one of the best returns in WWE history.
Is it one of the
Which,
biggest
because
pops
WrestleMania
as
is known
well?
for them. Probably the biggest. I mean,
Yeah,
I
probably.
second
That was bigger
biggest in
than
my
what
opinion,
Cody's one
but
was.
it's definitely up there. Cody,
Yeah,
I was there for Cody when Cody was hunt. Because I was one
We
of the little
kind of
bitches
knew
paying
that
for him.
Cody. I know it wasn't advertised, but we kind of knew.
But
You know,
see, we all
a
knew, but
smart
we didn't
fan would
think it was
know.
happening. We all
No,
knew, but we didn't think it was happening.
the Hardys was completely out of nowhere. But I
It
just
was.
wanted to ask you guys a quick question, I guess, on the Hardys and in particular Jeff. When you think back to his career, and he probably, I mean, when I was a kid, I think everybody loved Jeff, right? But he was probably my favorite growing up. Is he the biggest like what if story in wrestling, or
I
one
think
of them?
so. I think so, and I
He
think
could have been the one to go right to the top for a long, long, long time, but
like,
his
he
own
was at the
fault.
top, and he let it slip. Like we know, he had a great career up to 2004, and he was released because of his issues. He didn't get help. He got signed by TNA. How that was pulled off, I don't know. Because he was in TNA, I think, in '04 for a couple of months. Then they released him. Then brought him back a year later. Because you have that infamous moment where he was in the ring with Sting and Sting just refused to wrestle him
Yes.
because the lad was that drunk. It was like he downed the whole bottle of whiskey.
Can you imagine? I mean, if Jeff had stuck at it, we could be talking about someone who's main evented multiple WrestleManias as well, and
But
he
yeah,
hasn't got a WrestleMania main event in his pocket.
he doesn't.
In fact, he's not really, to be honest, it's hard to
he's not
remember
known for wrestling.
an I,
And
an iconic
he's
Jeff
had
Hardy
a great
match.
career. Like, he has had a great career. I'm not taking that away from it. Like when he came back to WWE, I believe it was '08 he returned, and he was
Yeah.
clean. He had a couple of weeks out of rehab. He was good with his sobriety. He had a great program with CM Punk. And then
Yeah.
I don't know. He won the title. He had the title for a couple of weeks. Then he lost it, and then he went off the rails again.
Things just never quite hit at the top for him. And I can't think of iconic singles matches at WrestleMania that Jeff Hardy's had. I mean, there was the flop with his own brother, obviously Matt, and that was a weird storyline. But it's a big what-if story. I was wanting to get your guys'
Yeah.
thoughts
Well,
on
no,
that.
because I personally blame WWE for Jeff relapsing the third time because in the Punk storyline, he smashed a bottle of whiskey off his head. And I don't care if it wasn't whiskey, it was it looked like whiskey. You don't smash something off an alcoholic's head that resembles that lad's weakness
Mm,
and then not expect him to relapse that night or a couple of weeks later.
yeah.
But we are getting on off topic. We can speak Jeff Hardy down the road, I'm sure. I'm sure Dark Side of the Ring will give us a reason to speak about Jeff Hardy.
Probably
But
would, but I think we've already discovered it as well. We've already covered a story about his life
we've
and
already,
everything.
I mean,
So,
I was expecting to kick off the episode with the Hardys, but hey, WrestleMania, Rock WrestleMania, who knows what's going to happen?
yeah,
Uh,
that's true, man. What about you, Tony? What's one of your favorite
uh,
moments?
so one of my favorite moments, and it's a controversial one because it's probably the most pissed on and shit on moment in WrestleMania history. And in fact, it happened 10 years ago. New Orleans, WrestleMania 30, the moment the whole world went silent. The 1, 2, 3 heard around the world. And that is when the dead man went 21-1. And not because the streak ended, but more so because I can call it the moment the world stood still, the moment you could hear the planet rotate when Brock
Yeah,
Lesnar beat
exactly.
Undertaker and ended the streak. It doesn't matter what reaction you look, matter where it is, silence is what brings those reactions all together. The man's face in the front row lit up like it's just
It
it's
is
one of
like
them moments.
it's one of the most shocking moments in wrestling history because everyone, as you said, everyone just stood still. Everyone was silent in that whole stadium. The commentators didn't even know what was going on. The ref was doing his job, just doing the 1, 2, 3, because everyone thought the ref did a mistake. Everyone thought the ref botched and done the 3 count, but no, he done the 3 count. The graphic came on 21-1, and I remember being in my room for that, and we both were like shocked at each other. We both looked in shock and we just couldn't believe it.
So
And it's like with what he has done with WrestleMania, and like if you even think about it, like yeah, he was an older man at the time, but like every WrestleMania from that probably recent memory was always like he had the best matches. So when he was getting absolutely decimated by Brock and then he lost, it was really like definitely an end of an era. Like I know the end of an era was at WrestleMania 28, but that was definitely an end of an era. And to this day, it's just shocking.
Yeah, that WrestleMania in general was might actually be my favorite. And obviously there's some massive moments in it, but you really felt sorry for the following match after that. I think it was for
that
the
was the
Divas
women's match, wasn't it?
Championship. Yeah, and
Yeah,
you
'cause I
you
remember,
felt horrendous for them after.
but not
Mm.
even that. Not even Daniel Bryan winning the title could get the crowd back. They were dead for the rest of the night. There was
It
no
was
Yeah,
just
re-energizing that crowd.
crazy.
That crowd flatlined after that match. And I think, given how big of a moment it was at the streak ended, and I know Daniel Bryan winning the title was as big, I think that match should have ended the night. Given the crowd would have went home, you would have had electricity all night. They would have went home flat. There was nothing to cheer on after that because it was the end of the show. And then that
Just
picture of Taker
definitely.
in the ring disorientated and Lesnar looking back at him, I think that would have been the better way to end Mania. I get why they went
True.
the way they went with it, but the crowd just went dead rest of the night. I felt horrible for the women. So they
yeah, it
talk
could have
about it
been
in
a show
Total
in
Divas.
itself.
They actually do a whole 20-minute spot on that saying, oh, we were terrified going out. We geared one of the monitors to see why everyone was shocked and going quiet. And they show like the geared reaction to Lesnar. Apparently, they changed at the end of that match 3 times, once during the match.
Yeah, it was because of Undertaker's position as well, because he was literally like he was like losing energy and he's broken down and he just couldn't able to be in the ring with Brock Lesnar, who
Uh,
at the time was an absolute monster, because they were building him up to be like the beast, to conquer the streak and everything like that.
yeah.
But as you said, like how do you follow up to that? We actually kind of had something like that with the Undertaker at the end of the WrestleMania, which we probably could get into, but yeah, it's just you just don't know what even to think about it now,
And I for one, I'm so happy I can mention Brock Lesnar's name and not have the FBI batter to him in those because he has been cleared.
Yeah.
He's in the clear.
Apparently, yeah.
I feel sorry for Sami Zayn because I feel there's an F5 heading Sami Zayn's way soon.
Yeah,
And that's why Sami won the match and not Chad. Because we'd be more so pissed if Chad lost the spot to Lesnar than we would be if Sami loses it.
I
Yeah.
think it's an interesting story as well, that actual match, because it did just seem like filling a gap by having Lesnar there. You know, Lesnar's a big name, put him on the card, give him Taker, that sort of thing. There was no feeling about it. In many of the other streak matches, you thought, okay, there's something in this, or there could be, and you would believe, you know, Shawn Michaels first time, okay, maybe not, but the second time, you're like, well, he's not losing twice. And of course, when it's Triple H, you're like, okay, he's going to lose the second match. It just has to happen. But there was really no feeling beforehand that Lesnar was actually going to go over. And I think the face of Paul Heyman is what I remember most at that point. I think there's plenty of videos zooming right into that almost scream-like face of his.
Yeah.
And you can just hear him shrieking, "Oh my God, oh my God." And for me, it's
I,
absolutely iconic. It's just crazy to think it ever happened because Lesnar came in and jobbed out to Cena straight away, and to build him back up to where he was, like, I'm not all that happy that Lesnar was the man to do it, given it was just a way to try and get Roman Reigns over ultimately, in a very long, long way, and never quite really worked out. But at the same time, I think it took a lot of pressure off Taker because there's no way he could continue to have match of the night, like Jamie said, year after year after year.
Mm. And not only that, he's talked publicly before about, other wrestlers breaking the streak, and for respect, they never did. Randy Orton, Edge
well,
at WrestleMania 24, and
I
all that
think
stuff. And like,
there was
but
5 names that were on the night of Mania listed to beat Lesnar, and it never happened because Vince changed the ending during the match.
yeah, of course, and like you never know what any of them could have been.
And
And you look
I
at
think of
Brock
those,
Lesnar. What we're gonna
I think of those. Sorry, I'm doing it
say?
again. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, fine.
Oh, go, come in after. You were
Oh,
ahead
yeah,
of me.
yeah. No, I know. But no, what I was gonna say was right is that yeah, he's openly talked about it before, and it's like well, Brock Lesnar didn't need that. They said John Cena, but then John Cena didn't need that. But like in fairness, I think Brock Lesnar at that time was probably one of the only ones. If you ask me, because they were building up really, really strong, especially after beating CM Punk in SummerSlam a few months before, and they were building it back up. And yeah, he did lose to Cena and the Triple H beforehand, but you kind of knew what direction they were going for. And I think if you were to do it with an active wrestler at that time, I think you would have taken like a big risk, because if you defeat the Undertaker beat the streak, which is monumental for anyone's career, you have to elevate that into the character and into the storyline of that wrestler. And with Brock, because Brock had the history and because he's a household name in media, in sports, and all that, in terms of names, there's no one bigger than Brock Lesnar. And I feel like he was probably the only one realistically to break the streak, and he went on probably one of the biggest runs in WWE history too.
And I think the only people that knew the ending of that match was the referee, Lesnar, Taker. I think everyone's reactions, Cole. Who was the commentator we call that night? Was it JBL
JBL and
and Paul Heyman? All them lads. Their reactions to me, if they weren't organic and they did know, their reactions really felt like they didn't.
mm, yeah, it's unbelievable. But so I'm gonna get into my favorite
Yeah,
WrestleMania moments. Like one of my favorite things,
one of
and
them.
it's the favorite WrestleMania. Yeah, it's my favorite WrestleMania as well. I actually agree with Mark. It's actually my favorite WrestleMania as well, and it's Daniel Bryan winning the WWE World Heavyweight Championship because for the story that they build up with him losing the WWE Championship to the Authority when Triple H turned on Daniel Bryan and then annoyed himself with Randy Orton, and the build with everything against Daniel Bryan and how he's not going to win the big one, where he should have won the 2014 Royal Rumble, but it wasn't. It was Batista and all these different things. And it's crazy to even think about that. The original plan was going to be him and Sheamus, which to me I wouldn't have gotten. Like why would they have another Sheamus and Daniel Bryan match just for no title, And it just wouldn't have made any sense. So when people got noise of that, they just got sick of it, and that's when the whole movement came in, and he actually got his way with being booked, and Daniel Bryan had to go on. If you actually think about it, a lot of people don't talk about this match much, but Daniel Bryan and Triple H is probably one of the best fourth matches in WrestleMania history. I know that probably sounds crazy, but I just feel like them two really the chemistry was really good, and they told a brilliant story. And it got you in the back of your mind thinking Daniel Bryan wasn't going to win, and he did. And then, of course, the triple threat and what they did that, night, and especially after Takeover winning, he had to do something big. So for them to pull the trigger and give Daniel Bryan the WWE World Heavyweight Championship was the best outcome for everyone.
Hard to
So
disagree with that.
no, and listen, I'm not the biggest Daniel Bryan fan, but the whole build to it was really good, and it happened on Bourbon Street, really good. Then tagged the whole Miracle and Bourbon Street thing. It was and even even more so for the little young fan in the crowd who got to see his hero
Oh,
win his world title weeks
Yeah.
before he succumbed to that bastard illness that we will one day find a cure for. Who actually his name is very, very famous now because of WWE, which is Conor Mahalik or McCulloch. Is it Mahalik?
Yep,
McCulloch?
Connor the Crusher
Conor the Crusher.
McCulloch.
Like I still see that video pop up where he's talking to all the wrestlers and he talks to AJ. It's actually AJ Lee posted it a few days ago. And he's like looking AJ Lee dead in the eye. You can't be evil anymore. And even AJ put the same character with the lovely.
And yeah,
Like
he
things
even
like that.
he even scored a pinfall over the Big Show.
I've said it because I hate adult wrestling fans because they make it about them. I'm like, we were that kid once. We were the kids screaming for the Rock when there were all that fans that still wanted Hogan and the Ric Flairs. You know what I mean? Like we need to show those kids, but we were showing so that it still grows and grows.
But I feel
It's a
like
bit.
that's even the same with this year's Mania. I think that is like with like Cody being the biggest baby face. It's like everybody would want Cody, win it, and then all the other fans are like, no, Ro, it's like you, exactly like you. You think Roman's gonna win, and you want Roman to win, but then that kid,
If Cody wins,
Cody
I
could.
won't hate it. I'll be depressed. I'll probably look for a whiskey on the way home that night. I will be depressed. But
Interesting because I think you might be right. I do actually think that back um at WrestleMania 30, I don't think there was anybody who didn't want Daniel Bryan to win that. I think every single person unanimously was behind Daniel Bryan to take the title. We all thought he deserved it, and there was just a whole big movement. I mean, obviously the yes movement, but like that went viral. The whole yes chant. It was seen in football
It was
stadiums. It was
everywhere.
everywhere.
It was on
It was
basketball and
unbelievable.
so controversial opinion here. I'm going to get kicked off with Jamie now. I was actually pissed going into Mania that Daniel Bryan was in the match. I knew he was going to be in the match because he wasn't going to lose Triple H kick off the show. So I knew it was going to end up being triple threat because the ruthless aggression fan of me wanted an evolution triple threat to end WrestleMania 30. And I didn't get that.
But I think everyone would have left. I think everybody would have left. To have three heels in a triple threat is, I think I'd live.
Only
And I
fucking
don't know
heels
what.
because they were booked against Daniel Bryan. And in fact,
Yeah, but
Batista
that's
came
what the
back as
whole
a
point
face.
was. Everything
Batista came
against.
back as a face, and the fans turned him into a heel. Like they turned The Rock into a heel. The fans think they know best.
Yeah, because the
Adult
guy
fans,
wasn't
not kid
wrestling
fans.
so fast.
Adult fans.
No, but listen, the fella was like doing James Bond movies in that like space of time, wasn't wrestling, comes back and then wins the Royal Rumble. It just doesn't make sense. People say, well, what about
Wrestling
Cody?
doesn't
Because
have to
Cody came
make
back from the
sense.
movie. No, but it just doesn't because you have to look at it logical sense. Daniel Bryan should have won that year. Like I know people should like Daniel Bryan should have won like the
Are
following
you
year,
asking
but
me to
I
look at
think the
wrestling in a
storyline.
logical sense?
Yes, look at it as
There's
a
a
logical
wrestler
sense.
called,
Yes,
hold
it
on,
does.
hold on. There's a wrestler called The Undertaker that makes lightning shoot out of his ass. There's a wrestler called Kane that can make fire appear out of nowhere.
But
There's a wrestler,
storyline logic, Tony, you have to look at it that way. You
there's
can't.
a wrestler called the Boogeyman that comes out of other people's beds and eats bumps. You ask me to find logic, I will tell you wrestling doesn't have to have logic.
Yeah, it might have protein in it. The worms.
But was there not a wrestler who was a pimp and came out with prostitutes? I believe there was. Where's the logic in that? That same wrestler was also a voodoo doctor at one point or another. So, I mean,
Yeah, I
You
mean,
get the Nathan.
the match itself, though, I think it is like it's one of the most feel good moments all
It
time.
is. No, it is. Like,
And
it
it
is,
is
really is.
unbelievable. Batista maybe had no right to be there, but I think that Batista was just a victim of the circumstances. I think it could have been anybody in that spot. Obviously, it's difficult because just like this year, when you know that it's going in a direction that you don't feel is right, and it's because yeah, okay, it'll get more pay-per-view buys or whatever, Batista Orton, Triple H, or just Batista and Orton, that's going to get more the same way that Rock and Roman is going to get more. But when people have worked as hard as Daniel Bryan did and been kicked and, you know, he was on television pretty much humiliated for, well, ever since that Brogue kick a couple of WrestleManias before. This was huge. He deserved it. Maybe hard luck going straight after, not straight after, but two matches
The
after
number you're looking
Lesnar.
for is
But
18.
yeah, 18 seconds.
Yeah. But can I actually start off, right? Because I want to actually get on to the worst moments now in WrestleMania history. And I wouldn't say it's a moment, it's like a personal issue. It's got to do with the WrestleMania that we were at home and how fucking long it was.
What way?
It was
What way?
only,
This can be edited out, and now I can. What way are we doing this? Are we going to do a worst moment, a good moment, a worst moment, a good moment? What way are we?
yeah, we're gonna do it that way. We're gonna do worst, best, worst, like best, worst, right? But I think it make it interesting as well because it's not really a moment, but it is in a way for the history of WWE. But the length of WrestleMania 45 was really a big issue for me, and I
Oh
felt it
my
as
god!
well
Oh my god!
because literally, I have never felt so exhausted after coming out of something. Like I've gone to so many events in my lifetime. You know, I've gone to football games, I've gone to wrestling events, gone to concerts, but I've never felt so exhausted coming out of the stadium in all my life after that WrestleMania for how
So
long it was. It was crazy long. I
how
hated it.
long?
Unfortunately,
No,
they don't sell Buckfast over there. That's
yeah.
what kept me
So
going at the Royal
not
Rumble.
including because the
Yeah.
pre-show was 2 hours and I had three matches on it as far as I know. 'Cause we were
So
there for the pre-show.
all
How long
all
was the
together,
main show?
so
Don't
all
include
together the
the
main show. No, 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 no. Right, the main show. I think when I remember checking it, it was 5 hours and like 14, 15 minutes.
so
So
78
yeah,
hours in that one venue.
yeah, literally, and you'll include the
So
pre-show in that. But like
this,
that main show was like over 5 hours and 50
yeah.
minutes, which was
So it
which is
really
not.
was like it didn't need to be that long. And actually, now that you bring that up, I can't talk about it in a moment in that same night. So it's actually a reoccurring theme of where the crowd is dead for matches they shouldn't be. So like I think they were alive for the first two, maybe 3 hours. They
I
used to be a
remember,
4 hour show, so yeah, going.
Tony,
And
I remember, sorry to interrupt, but I remember that first half of WrestleMania, I actually thought we were going to be in for the biggest WrestleMania of all time, the way it was leading to. Because the start of that Mania, and I've publicly said it to you before, and even on this podcast, I said that that Mania, that first half was unbelievable. It was great. The Kofi Mania,
yeah,
the tag team, Seth Rollins being the start of the match, because
I
originally it
just
wasn't supposed to be. It was supposed to be Styles and Orton, but then it wasn't. It got changed to Brock and Seth. That had potential, but as soon as Kofi Mania's match was over, gone. It was completely dead, and
that was
it
the
took
halfway
the
point. That was about 2.5 hours into the show, I believe.
yeah
And
yeah
because
it took
I
the
was up and I
atmosphere.
was awake for that match, I was alert for that match for the Iconics match, full of excitement.
Mm,
Um, I felt bad for the three women in the main event because the crowd just
I
could not
did.
do anything because they were that tired. Like I didn't take pictures out of respect for people there, but there was like from us down to where the center seats were, you could see kids on their parents' laps asleep. They were that tired.
Mm,
That's how long the
mm,
show was. And in lieu of that being as long as it was, everybody in that venue missed all public transport back into the city. We were 3 hours,
mhm.
I believe, after that stranded, getting pissed on, trying to get back to New York.
Of course, the
Yeah, there
trains
were
and all. I remember the sorry, Mark. What did I say?
we had four pre-show matches, and in total, if you include them, 16 matches, which is absolutely crazy. It's,
Crazy.
even though only three of them were over 20 minutes, but like that is absolutely nuts. And it's no surprise that they split WrestleMania into two nights, which people may have their
Could
own
have done it
opinion on
35.
as well. But
That's just my opinion.
Yeah,
yeah, I think they probably should have by the looks of things. But
But I
um,
think, like, in my two nights, like, everyone hates it, but for someone that was stranded with 3 hours, where they now know that they're guaranteed 4 hours one night, 4 hours one night, you can get home. Like, for the people that weren't there, that went stranded with 3 hours in the middle of nowhere in New Jersey, fuck you. Fuck you and your opinion.
Yeah, like you don't know what you actually have been through especially with us. Like we've been through the shit when it came to after that because we got people lost and all. Everyone was lost. You're queuing up for hours, you're
Raw.
pissing
Like,
the rain, waiting for
you
the
made
coach.
hundreds of new
Because I
friends.
remember then. I remember actually getting my. I never felt so pissed off in my life. I remember getting my WrestleMania ticket, which everyone in that first WrestleMania actually just keep it as a souvenir and stuff like that. But I was soaked to the bone, and my WrestleMania ticket was soaked. And what I done was I just threw it away. I said it wasn't ruined,
I think
but
mine went
it was
disintegrated as well,
fucking
actually.
yeah. Mine got soaked to the bone. Well, I got soaked to the bone, and I just threw mine away. I was like, you know what? Fuck this, mate. I want to go to bed.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah. I
it,
dipped
it,
out
it,
at this point, to be fair. I actually didn't watch this WrestleMania. I knew about it, and I, at this point, started to listen to podcasts. Funnily enough, now end up on one. But at this point, I'd kind of dipped out. I got really tired of Shane McMahon. I got tired of Roman Reigns. I know this is when he sort of came back. It didn't feel like a great time, and it seemed that the worst of the sort of rinsing the crowd for everything they could get, or rinsing the fans. Having this for as long as it was is pretty shit. It's no surprise it's one of your worst moments, especially if you've traveled all that way. But at the same time, you know, you're seeing probably what a hometown hero you would
yeah,
call
like,
Becky Lynch winning. Um,
Yeah, true.
balances
and I
out.
I was
loved it,
actually going
but
to say,
I loved it, and I still feel bad for those women to this day because everyone's like, that was a shit match, that was a shit match. Of course it was a shit match. We were all asleep. We were all asleep. Of course it was
yeah,
a shit match.
It's a
honestly,
massive
and
shock that Kofi
For
Mania
me,
didn't
for
end
me,
night one.
WrestleMania 35 peaked for Kobe's match. That's when it peaked. After that, I slept.
Could have had two separate shows, as you say,
Like,
after
like
that.
lads nudging me, like, you up. I was like this at one point, just falling asleep, people.
Another six matches came after that, which is nuts.
no, no. But what's crazy about that weekend though, and that was my fourth weekend doing WrestleMania, and I was so stacked with wrestling stuff. Like people ask me when I said, "Oh yeah, I went over to WrestleMania and I did all the wrestling stuff." What was your favorite like day? What was your favorite moment? It wasn't even WrestleMania. It was like the Super Card of Honor that was the night before at Madison Square Garden. Like that was probably the best night because I had banger matches. It wasn't that long. I think it was actually under 4 hours. I had better matches than WrestleMania did overall, and
It
that's
was,
what made it.
that was a stunning show.
Yeah, brilliant show, honest to God. And it's like that's what that whole weekend was about. Was all the like about all the shows like that. But then WrestleMania hit, and we're all there for that, and it just got ruined, especially afterwards as
Oh yeah,
well. Especially after it was over, like it just got real
it,
funny. And yeah, I
it
was
was a
glad to see
great
good.
city to host.
It
It was a
was.
great city. And I think the city got dead the next morning in the papers and on the news because of it. And then like, but they gave people times, and it went over the times. Like, why are the city getting given out it?
No, but did you see though as well? There was a photo of the train station when people even left early, but like before Becky Lynch won the title, and you can literally see like a whole station full of people trying to get a subway back to the
Yeah,
city centre, and yeah, just couldn't get any. It was
like
ridiculous. People were stranded everywhere because that
I
stadium. And this is another thing. It's in the middle of nowhere. If this stadium is in the middle of fucking nowhere, which is even worse.
let me put this
Oh,
into perspective for you. And anyone that knows me will tell you this. I love Xavier Woods, Big E, Kofi. I've been a Kofi fan since he debuted with a dodgy accent
yeah.
for years. And if you don't believe me that I'm his biggest fan, I have this bad boy.
Ah,
I have this bad boy. I have
yeah.
this bad boy. And I don't know if the camera can pick it up. It is signed by all three.
That's class.
That's
Yeah,
how big
I
a fan
remember
I
me
am.
too.
That was my reason for getting on the plane and going to my first mania. And I loved that moment. I peaked for that moment. And after that, no disrespect to the talent, my body levels just went. That and the
Mm.
iconics were where I peaked. And then after that,
I guess
I
it's no
mean,
surprise they learned from the mistake to then split it into two.
yeah, but I love the tune. Like, I know people hate it because like, oh, but it's more time. But you're going to be in the States for the next the couple of nights, regardless, because you're going to stay for the Raw after mania. So
It's
what's the
far more
argument here?
of an event as well, and there's so much that's a week, of activities. I'm desperate to go at some point. I'm kind of gutted I'm not going this year, to be fair, but like,
Yeah,
yeah, it does sort of widen it out a bit and make it more worth your time because it's especially for us, right? We're
yeah.
based in pretty much UK, Ireland. It's pretty tough just to go for like a night or a couple of nights of wrestling. You can't
Like
justify it,
Mm.
but
Get the
the
money as
way for
well.
me, I think I'm on the same boat as Jamie with that. Like one of my favorite moments was watching Kofi win is that world title. But
Yeah.
I think the highlight moment for me at that WrestleMania had nothing to do with WrestleMania at all. It was coming out before we were stranded. I got to meet Hiroshi Tanahashi.
Did you?
Yeah,
I
but I
don't
couldn't get a
remember
picture with him because he was. Me and Niall met him, but we couldn't get a picture with him because he was legging to get a bus like we were. He was
that.
there
Yeah,
as a
yeah,
fan because obviously New Japan were in town that day,
yeah. We were in the
and
same
he
hotel
was
as
like
all the
he was
New Japan.
so friendly. He was apologetic and all he was like, no, I may understand we're trying to get a bus as well. And all that time, because he was the only person I met to actually stop our pictures because we were in the hotel as the New Japan lads, and none
Yeah,
of them would talk to you except Juice Robinson talked to us, but no one else would talk to us because they weren't allowed to. They were told they weren't allowed to because Dragon Lee was with them at the time, and he came up to us. He's like, lads, I'm so sorry. They're told that they can't. They're not allowed. And we were like,
yeah.
yeah, no respect. Because we were getting pizza, and I said, lads, this and that. Snarl was gone like the flash. He
Yeah,
couldn't have got that
literally.
pizza place quicker.
I remember the four of us, the Mahoney brothers, me, you, there's JR, all of us were actually there,
Sorry.
and I remember Samantha being there. But then not only that, I was gonna say we were in the same hotel as all the New Japan heads, so everyone was there. Saxon Jr., Will Ospreay, and I remember I went out to get food and I bumped into Saxon Jr. I think it was actually the morning of Mania because it was the night after Super of Honor. And then weirdly enough, I don't know if you remember this, Tony, when we were all going up to get the bus to the stadium. We all bumped into Will Ospreay. He's with
We
the
bumped
used
into
to get
Will and his old flame
yeah,
at that time.
yeah, and it's like it's crazy how that weekend all came to fruition. Like it was just bumped into loads of wrestlers, like, and that's just the beauty of it too, because there was just some of them that actually took time, and then some of them were like what Tanahashi did, which I don't remember you telling me by the way, just rushing
I
out.
thought we did.
But
I thought me and I told you the next morning when we were getting breakfast.
I actually can't remember. I honestly don't remember. But no, just to move on anyway. So Mark, what is one of your worst WrestleMania moments?
Again, I don't. I've got moments, but I want to continue in the theme of length and of um, you know, having to maybe watch a bit too much. I'm going to take us back to what I would call the most tone deaf WrestleMania of all time. And that is WrestleMania 32. This is possibly
Oh,
my most hated WrestleMania. Again, deep within watching it at the time, pretty invested in everything going on. But has there ever been a WrestleMania as disappointing as this? I'm going to run through a few of the matches that particularly disappointed me.
I
But first,
I
a
think
question.
I think it's the biggest. I think it's the biggest missed potential in a way that that year was full of injuries. And
So,
I think with everyone fit, I think it would have made one of the greatest WrestleManias of all time. And it's a missed opportunity because of all the injuries. So that they
well,
had to do what they had to make.
possibly. But if I were to ask you guys, before I go on to my specifics on this, what's the one thing that you actually remember about that WrestleMania?
If it's the mania I'm thinking of, it's Shane jumping off the Hell in the Cell.
Correct. It is.
Mm.
And that is the only thing that people can remember. And I'm going to take you back, right? A few things that pissed me off as a fan. AJ Styles just debuted, right? Royal Rumble, huge moment. Chris Jericho puts everybody over. I remember at this point, I had an accumulator going on Sky Bet because it's like
Oh
it's
my
so
god.
predictable. I know, rookie era, never bet on wrestling, but Chris Jericho,
Oh,
he put fucking Fandango over a year or two before. Of course he's going to put AJ over, but no, 17 minutes for Chris Jericho to pin AJ Styles, ruin all his momentum absolutely instantly. Okay, so we've got that Shane McMahon moment. That's fine, great. He jumped through off the cage, but you know what? He ended up so big-headed after that. He put himself on everything on
I don't know how
television and
much
made
you would pay
himself
for
the
that.
best. Yeah, he made himself the best wrestler in the fucking world. No, thank you, Shane. But actually, the most well, obviously you've also got the Brock Lesnar Dean Ambrose match, which was a shit show because Lesnar was in a huff. But actually,
Have you heard the stories of that Ambrose has told after that? Like he's gone on record to say that they had big plans for that and Lesnar turned down every single one of them.
yeah, he just was like, no, I'm not bothered, which is tone deaf and you know very entitled, but none more entitled in my opinion than the main event. After watching all of that. All of this, you're like, it's fine. We've got the main event we all want to see, Roman Reigns and Triple H. I actually went to bed before that match. I watched the match in the morning because 27 minutes of Roman Reigns versus Triple H was not the end of that show. The show itself was a massive disappointment. It was tone deaf. The results were pretty tone deaf. The only feel good moment you really had, because even at the end, Reigns, going over Triple H wasn't exactly a feel good moment. You expected they were trying their best to make him the next big thing. The only thing was Zack Ryder winning the title, the Intercontinental title, and then he lost it the next night anyway. It was, for me, I remember feeling like I just wanted to switch off. And the fact that I didn't actually watch the main event, I went to bed when I found out that that was, I think it was like 4 or 5 in the morning. I'm not even interested in watching it. I'll watch it in the morning. That's my worst, because all the excitement of WrestleMania leading to that show, it was a huge disappointment for me. That's my worst show. I know I've not specified a specific moment, but keen to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I do feel like you're right in a way with that WrestleMania. It was like one big ball of a sack of that, and then the rest of it was just like dead with the reactions, and it was just flat. I don't know. We had moments with like Mick Foley, Shawn Michaels, and Stone Cold coming out against the New Day, but it is weird because like New Day didn't defend their titles, but they lost, and the matches with Roman and Triple H was just dead. Nobody wanted Roman to win. The Ambrose match is the most unforgettable match. Oh, sorry, the most forgettable match in WrestleMania history. And then, yeah, you had the Hell in a Cell match, which I think in that whole weekend everyone was looking forward to. But I felt like that match was just as bad as probably most of the matches in that. Like, yeah, it had one moment, but Shane McMahon wrestling in that age at that time, it was just like, no, thank you. I don't want to see that man in a wrestling ring ever again. But yeah, but in part of me though doesn't blame me what happened because yes, there was a plethora of injuries, and I will state again, I feel like if we had everyone fit and everything was going as smoothly as it was going, I felt like that could have been the biggest WrestleMania, of all time, if not one of the biggest. And it's definitely one of them WrestleManias where it's a big missed opportunity for that reason. But everything that Mark said there, he has a valid point for every single one because it's one of the most frustrating WrestleManias, and that's for a
I
fact.
think it was like one of the manias that you could turn around and it was like that mania was fucked ass backwards. Like it was the mania that didn't make sense. Like
Mhm.
going into it, the big storyline was the whole Shane McMahon is blackmailing Vince. He's something in this box that
Oh
what is
yeah,
that we gotta
remember
find
that?
out. Because
He never got anywhere.
isn't that what led to the Undertaker match?
Mm.
Like it didn't make sense. Like surely you would have went and found someone that made more sense to face Shane than Undertaker. Like, no, Vince can't wrestle. He's not able to. Like his body can't do it.
Probably
We
Triple
seen
H,
that.
but
We
Triple H
seen that when he tried to
had
take on Austin and rugby. It did muck. Like but like and we didn't even hear anything about the box after that. Like the box thing was dead. Like it was just the whole event itself. Like it just didn't make sense. Even Roman winning the title was deflated. And I'm a Roman fan, and I tell you that was deflated. But that
Mm.
timeline was deflated when Triple H walked out at the Rumble that year and won the title anyway.
Yeah, no,
Like
absolutely.
it's just it was it's like one of those manias here. Like God, I feel sorry for people that flew over and paid money to watch that.
Yep,
Yeah,
just to see Shane McMahon jump through a table. Even that moment was ruined by Michael Cole being fed the line for the love of mankind, and you can see him standing there reading it off the script. Like for me, that was just as a fan, it was a huge slap in the face. It was
And it's I
so,
know he gets a lot of shit, but it's not Michael Cole. Michael Cole is
no,
known for doing things on the fly. He is. I would say
excellent.
he's probably the GOAT of commentators, and he deserves a
Yep,
spot in the Hall of Fame whenever he gets it. Just
absolutely agree.
being a
I
man who has the experience he had, Lions, and not letting him do his own thing shows you how out of touch Finch was
yeah.
then.
Yeah, for me, I could not agree more. I think Michael Cole is absolutely brilliant. It's again not been his fault that he's been treated the way that he has over the. I know Vince for some reason just doesn't like commentators, right? But
mm,
what he did to JR, the way he turned Michael Cole heel and stuff, I'm sure Cole had a lot of fun at the time, but the guy's brilliant and he didn't deserve to be standing there reading that off a script. The whole show was just, as we would say in Scotland, it was bogging. not for me.
Yeah, it was. So yeah, well, we're gonna get into a good few moments now. We're gonna go on to another probably favorite moments. Like, is there one in particular that you love, Mac?
Of specific moments, ugh, that one is a bit difficult, having gone for the Hardys previously, and obviously the obvious one with Daniel Bryan is is pretty good for me. But maybe I'll take us back to when I was really young, and this is probably when WrestleMania was, the pay-per-view style thing. I'm at school, maybe even just getting into to high school, maybe not even yet. Um, and it's the parts where, you know, people are dropping out, but the kids are starting to love it.
Mm,
C Nation is beginning. The Doctor of Thugonomics is no
yeah.
more, but we now have this almost superhero like John Cena. Um, for me, it's all about nostalgia in that aspect. And I'm going to
Mm,
take us all the way back to WrestleMania 22, which is possibly also on par, maybe not quite my favorite given what I know now, but certainly up there because of the nostalgia. And for me, as a young as a young wrestling fan, I had heard of Mankind and I'd heard of Cactus Jack, but really from at this point the wrestling games, PS2, we're all playing Here Comes the Pain, and you could maybe play as Mick Foley or Mankind at the time. But watching him in that match, that hardcore match with Edge at the time, was like something I'd never seen before. And for me, Edge, it was the absolute making of him. He went on to have an amazing year, 2 years, 3 years, and it solidified him as a main event talent. But that hardcore match was probably for me, well, it's one of my favorite moments. I get the spear as the spear through the flaming table is the part that we all remember, right? But that
yeah,
whole
yeah.
match and what they put themselves through, and they also did it with a smile. They had a lot of fun doing it. The
Mm,
build was good. The attire is iconic. The moments
yeah.
are iconic, and for me, that's a really, I would say it's even an underrated match
Mm.
on that card, which is full of, yeah, it's a generally okay WrestleMania, but that one, as a kid, that yeah, I hated Edge as a kid, and I was supposed to, and this is kind of why he was evil. Um, and I absolutely loved that match. Do you guys have memories of the hardcore match between Edge and Mick Foley?
I remember
Uh,
growing up saying that that was kind of like the best match of that Mania. As you as a kid, I think like John Cena was my favorite, but then Edge and Mick Foley having that match and everyone just talking about how unbelievably extreme and like bloody and gory. It's everything you'd want in there. Like it wasn't too much, which I think was also great too. It wasn't too much gore, wasn't too much uncomfortable for people, but it was one of them matches that everybody talked about, I think, as well. I know John Cena bet Triple H in the main event, but it's definitely one of the most memorable matches for the type of match that it was.
and I mean, it's a testament to both men's skills back then because you pointed out John Cena beat Triple H in the main event or
Mm.
whatever the case
Yeah,
was. That wasn't talked about. The only thing talked about from that Mania is that Extreme Rules match.
yeah,
And
and also you've
there's
got the massive moment with Rey Mysterio as well. That iconic
Yeah,
moment.
and that went under the radar too because
Yeah,
everyone was talking about the Extreme Rules match. And as an image, and I thought I had a copy of it, but I can't. There's an image and it is rent free in my mind, and it's Edge spearing Mick through a flaming table.
yeah, yeah.
Like Mick is on the apron and Edge just come. I think Edge injured himself doing it as well. Might remember.
that's the moment. That is the moment. And there was thumbtacks involved, I'm pretty sure. There was blood. Like Foley just looked like he was having fun, and Edge just looked like he was evil. And at this point, he's at the peak of his powers. It was like in storytelling, in character building, it's one of my favorite moments.
Yeah, I
And
think
now I appreciate Edge much more as a grown up than maybe I did back then.
Yeah,
I absolutely hated
absolutely
the
because
guy
it was
back
like
then.
it was there literally saying, I've arrived, it's my time, I am here, come at me.
And at this point, he'd
Yeah,
already won Money in the Bank the year previous. I think he'd held the title, but it's like, what a year! What a year that guy had, and possibly like I know that he becomes a really good babyface to the end of the noughties, right? But I would strongly suggest that he's one of the most underrated heels of all time.
yeah,
He was exceptional in the mid 2000s.
yeah. Oh no, totally agree. Yeah, definitely right. He is. I wouldn't even say he's underrated. I think probably one of the biggest in the mid-noughties of being one of the big skills in WWE because everyone knows that for being that heel and being. Because even growing up, I remember one of my favorite rivalries, if not my favorite rivalry of John Cena, was him and Edge in 2006, and him then go back and forth for the WWE title. You know, when it came to Edge slapping his dad or John Cena fucking him in the river, I remember all them things. And yeah, it was just so memorable as a kid. So yeah, I wouldn't say he's underrated. I'd say he's definitely like the biggest heel at that time. But I was going to get into a favorite moment, and it's got to do with John Cena, and it's got to do with him and The Rock, WrestleMania 28. But even before that, it's the whole build up to when The Rock came back. Now, I'm going to include my brother in this because my brother is a big reason why I'm a wrestling fan today. And I wouldn't say he's like me now, you know, he's kind of laid back and stuff. But um, back in the day, he was like, you know, big into wrestling because of my cousins. And his favorite wrestler was The Rock. And he loved The Rock. And, you know, everyone knows about the promos and everything. And he had posters and all of The Rock when he was a kid and everything. So he idolized him. And then for me in my generation, it was John Cena. You know, I had John Cena posters. I watched Raw because of him, and you know, everyone knows about him being Super Cena. So when The Rock came back, and you know, my brother was ecstatic he came back. He went straight after John Cena, and as a kid, it was like, oh my god, he's going after Cena. Why? And you know, they had that whole build up. You know, cost them the WWE title at WrestleMania 27. And then they announced then the night after WrestleMania that they were going to do the match the year after WrestleMania 28. And honestly, I don't think I've ever seen a bigger build for a wrestling match in all my life. Like not even just a WrestleMania match, but just a match. And how big it was. I don't think I will ever see Anne as big as that. And the build up and how personal it got between them two. You know, growing up, you know, I was like, The Rock was just being The Rock. But you look at what Cena did, and he called him out on a lot of things, and he's telling them how it is. And honestly, I remember that night when that match happened. I remember I had like an old John Cena orange t-shirt, and my brother had a The Rock t-shirt to just bring it, and we were both excited. So when The Rock best Cena, I remember crying, and my brother like just laughing at me. But to me, it's a personal like you might have lost, but that whole year of Cena's gonna win, no, The Rock's gonna win. Me personally, it's one of my favorites.
So
And it's a solid choice.
it is, and it also gives another stunning, iconic image that is rent free in every wrestling fan's mind. It's the image of Cena sitting down with his hands in his head like that, and the Rock's hand
Mm,
being held. You could see the disappointment, the defeat, the I don't know, the distraughtness in John Cena's face.
yeah,
Like you
Yes,
could
the
see
old
what
school
he
rubber
knew he was
chicken.
going to lose, obviously, but you could see the hurt in him that he had to take that loss.
It's the old school
yeah.
rubber chicken that I saw, that with Cody last year. But yeah, I agree. And it kickstarted Cena's redemption story and Cena's worst year ever because what was it after that, the Lesnar defeat. The only
Mm,
thing that I have an issue with about that match is um the I understand that it was a massive build. I don't know. I know this show is obviously the weekly controversies, and I'm prone to having some controversial opinions. I don't know if this was
We
controversial,
welcome it.
but
We
I
welcome it.
don't like the fact that we had we built it for 2 years, really having The Rock come back at all the year before with the Miz and do whatever. But I just think it shat on the whole roster for the rest of the year, knowing that that was going to main event. And no matter what, because you've got Punk having an amazing year um, at that point as well. You've got Jericho on form, Daniel Bryan starting to sort of make his comeuppance, and even Sheamus, guys like that. But it didn't really matter. Everybody on that roster felt upper mid card as a result of the fact that we knew that no matter what, that main event was happening. And I just feel like that whole year spent too much time building on that, and a lot of people were maybe, not let down, but just second fiddle, which didn't sit right at the time.
I think for me, I hated how they marketed it. They marketed the first match as once in a lifetime.
Mm.
To then the following year have that match again. We are like, what happened to once in a lifetime? What happened to the
Mm.
market of once in a lifetime?
Yeah,
Now we're
we
here.
didn't
Here
know
we
he
are
was going to
twice in
win
a
the Rumble,
lifetime.
you know?
Like,
It's not
like,
once in a lifetime. I agree.
like I've no issue that they wrestled twice. I've an issue that they called the fourth match once in a lifetime because it wasn't once in a lifetime, and they fucked up the whole market for that match because of the second match.
True. But to me, as I said, it's one of them things that I remember the most. Like I remember that once in a lifetime. That's what got to me as well. And in a way, when you talk about the whole John Cena and the iconic moment where he's standing there in the ramp, oh, that's sitting there, sorry, on the ramp, and then the Rock is there, putting up the arm and he's cheering his win. You could see even in like a John Cena, he really probably wanted that win. He really did. I guess for business wise, it's the same with Cody. I say John Cena personally felt I wanted that win, but look, business was business. The Rock was in Miami. If he didn't win, what the reaction would have been? I get why the Rock won, but he just was like, yeah, man, I respect what we done. It was a great build, everything like that. I'm sorry for everything that was personal. And then they shook hands then, and then they became friends. But I'd say part of Cena probably today, he doesn't like to admit it, but probably wishes that he got it that year instead of the year after.
And I think
Yeah.
keeping in tune with the fact that we had Mark talk about mom from when he was a kid, you had talked about mom when you were a kid. I'm gonna now do the same thing, and I'm gonna bring us all the way back to the year of 2001, WrestleMania 17.
How old
Uh,
are you,
Perhaps
dude?
yeah,
I'm
he's
old.
old.
I'm getting on in life. I'm getting on in life. To perhaps the biggest main event of one of the biggest rivalries in wrestling history. Yes, I went there. It was Rock Austin 2. Both faces at the time, I believe, gone into it. Two faces in the main event, but back then was probably unheard of because you had like a split fan base. You had the Austin fans, the Rock fans. Who's going to win? What's going to happen? What twist have they got? Because all throughout the fans are like, "We've seen it at 15. We've seen this story. What can they do to catch us off guard?" That's it. As a wrestling fan, there's not many moments in wrestling you can say that caught me off guard. I didn't see that coming, and I think when Vince came out, you were like, "Oh, here we go. The Rock's turning. Austin's getting a chair off the head." Nobody, and I mean nobody, was expecting Austin to align with Vince and turn heel that night, let alone 11-year-old me. I wasn't expecting a heel Austin. It caught me completely off guard. And I'm like, what's he doing? What's he doing? Why is he doing that? What? It was just one of those moments. And if you ask me like to name WrestleMania moments, that will always be in it because that heel turn was the most out of the blue heel turn I think I've ever witnessed. Austin turning heel and shaking hands with the devil himself. Like,
Yeah,
The literal devil. Yeah. I think we'd
and
actually, on this podcast, right, we would be not doing wrestling fans justice should we not talk about WrestleMania X7. So I'm glad you brought that up. It's the
yeah,
best WrestleMania, like um sub uh, subjectively, objectively, either way, it is the best WrestleMania of all time. And that
mm,
moment, can you imagine in the age of social media? That is all I'm saying. Think about the streak.
imagine.
Think about Kofi Mania. Think about everything. Cody Mania, whatever you want. That's the possibly the one of the, well, it possibly is the biggest WrestleMania moment of all time. Can you imagine X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, at the time? Fuck me. What a moment and great shout, Tony.
Yeah, I would be like stunned if that was like an 11-year-old me or a teenager or even like the age I am now. And then that happens. It's like Stone Cold is now aligning himself with Mr. McMahon, the man that he despises, who he built up every single week, who Mr. McMahon just couldn't get rid of him. He was always there, like he was always behind them, and wanting to like get some sort of ass whooping to Mr. McMahon. And just takes his hand, and then that famous line is what Tony said, taking the hands with the devil. I honestly, it probably, as you said, probably be bigger than the street breaking. Nobody would have expected that. And like streets end, in fairness, streets do end in anything. So something like that is unprecedented.
It really was.
Yeah.
And I think Jim Ross said it best when he was like, Stone Cold has sold his soul to the devil himself.
Yeah, iconic. Then that WrestleMania in general, it's just almost perfect. I don't want to say completely perfect because it probably doesn't quite exist, but
The
that
hardcore match.
moment particularly, yes, is incredible. But my God, like the fact that that had happened, and I've got it up here, it's the 12th match of the night, including the dark match. You've already seen the TLC WrestleMania X7 match. You've already seen Kurt Angle go at it with name redacted Chris Benoit himself. You've seen hardcore matches. You've seen the APA and Taz. You've seen William Regal and Chris Jericho, which is in itself is like, what a blessing that WrestleMania is. So many huge
Yeah,
matches.
Triple H and was it Triple H and The Undertaker?
Undertaker.
Yeah.
It was. Triple H
Yeah, The
Undertaker was that
Undertaker.
year. It was Taker's first Mania back after his hiatus.
And also the gimmick battle royal, which at the time, I must say it, I know they do things like that all the time and it's always been a bit of a joke, but like it's pretty fun. At that point, it was the perfect time to have that kind of thing as well. And a lot of old names coming back, guys like the Iron Sheik coming back to win it. Really, really cool. But that moment with the chair, that iconic moment, yeah, there's a reason people always refer back to WrestleMania X7. I just want to know, Tony, if well, your opinion on should they have?
Should they have what? What opinion are you
Should
looking for?
should based on what we know afterwards, should they have turned Steve Austin?
I So much happened afterwards.
It's nuts, isn't it?
He was looking at where he went. If he hadn't have torn the X7, he was torn regardless. Is what it looked like. Like
Yeah,
the what you're referring to, that was already signed in and delivered by Mania 17.
yeah. We got an
Because
entertaining side to Steve Austin as well after that, to be fair. But a lot of people dropped out at that point.
they did, but
The end of the answer,
it was
yeah.
also another moment at that Mania that was oh my god moment. I think it was that Mania. I'm gonna be hung if I messed up my Manias. It was a comatose Linda McMahon rising from her wheelchair and kicking her husband in the bollock.
Yeah, I forgot about
The
that match.
street fight,
Mr.
Shane
McMahon
and
and
That was
Shane
Vince.
Shane and
McMahon.
Vince.
Yeah, that's another
Yep.
match I forgot. Jesus.
The
Yeah.
WCW deal had been done a week before that match, as far as I know, before that took place because it was part of the build up because Shane took the company. So I think given that we knew WCW was taken and given they were going to need a face to lead WB against them, I think Austin was torn in the head anyway. So
Yeah, but it just I have to say it is the best. I know we have our own like personal favorites, but there's no denying it is the best
and it's a moment we
WrestleMania.
still talk about 23 years later. So it's a
No,
moment that paid off
yeah, true. But Tony, what would you say be one of the worst moments as well?
from that mania or from any manias.
No, just any mania, any mania.
Uh, for me, and it's not the mania itself, it was the time it happened in because it robbed me of so much. Mania 36, because I was meant to be at it and I couldn't go to it because of
Yeah,
COVID.
thank you. But I wouldn't say it's one of the worst. It's no one's
I
fault. It was a fucking global pandemic.
It was hard to watch with no one there. I felt bad for the wrestlers because it was like,
I felt bad for them too.
plus I was deprived of meeting AJ and Randy Orton at that mania because I couldn't find out.
Yeah, I think I was looking to the AJ, yeah, but It never was. But I wouldn't even say that's probably one of the worst moments because it's a global pandemic. It was no one's fault. He couldn't
It's
get a crowd because of
that's
it.
why it's
You
like
know.
it's not like it's like your worst moment of the same mania. It wasn't actually the mania. It was an event leading to it. So the mania
Yeah.
itself, what they did in it was good. 'Cause we got the Firefly Funhouse match, we got the Boneyard match, but the whole I was meant to be there, and it wasn't there, and it turned out to be Taker's last mania.
Mm,
Kind of
yeah.
like I
Yeah,
was just depressed watching it because it was meant to be there, and
it was a really
no one
hard watch,
for
wasn't it?
me. For me, I think the American Badass Taker is the best of Taker's reincarnations. And knowing now that if I was at that venue in Florida, I would have got to see Taker on the bike one last time. That broke my heart. Because that Taker is a Taker I love. I love that Taker. And knowing now that's
Mm,
the route they were going, that he was coming out on that bike, that it just broke me.
It's a tough one. It's a really tough one to watch. That whole WrestleMania, 2 nights, pretty empty. Like it's downright upsetting. It takes me, takes me back to and all of us back to pretty dark times, with isolation and things like that. It just that
mm,
WrestleMania, I don't think I'll ever watch it again. It just reminds me of not the best of moments, not the best of times, and for everybody. And it's kind of why I'm not going to pull this back to talk about this year's WrestleMania, but it's why I'm so happy for Drew, like, and desperate that he goes over. I'd love to have seen him go over as a babyface at some point, but like having done that and went over Lesnar on the second night, that just would have been incredible. And the guy has fought tooth and nail to keep himself relevant. Um, the beauty of that WrestleMania as well, like you say, the Boneyard match and the Firefly Funhouse match, you get to see slightly different styles of wacky wrestling, which, um, taking this full circle, would never have existed without Matt freaking Hardy, if you ask me.
mm.
But yeah, it's probably the darkest of WrestleManias, moment wise. It's like a moment of our lives that just feels really out of place and odd.
Yeah. No, it's listen, I think for certain matches in 2 nights of that mania, there is the memorable matches like the Firefly Funhouse, yeah, the Boneyard match with Undertaker and AJ, which was like Taker's last match. I think like those sort of matches because they were cinematic and was different to what we normally see at WrestleMania. I think they're the two matches to me that I always look back on and have like fond memories of, especially watching it during lockdown. But yeah, it is a hard watch as there was no crowd and it was kind of all over the place because of people being diagnosed with COVID-19 and like even Roman not being there because of his leukemia, so he didn't want to take the risk and stuff. But yeah, I do agree. It's one of the hardest manias to watch. But I don't think it's any fault of anyone that was involved. But speaking of Roman Reigns, I think one of the worst moments I've ever seen in WrestleMania was when he had that match with the Undertaker at 43 because for one, I think it didn't make sense. This whole thing of, oh, it's my year. No, it's my year. Oh, let's have a main event match at WrestleMania. I think if you told me that Brock Lesnar and Goldberg was the main event match at WrestleMania that year, I totally would have got it because they built from Survivor Series. But when they had Roman and Undertaker be the main event, I just didn't get it. And I will sit here and say that I did not get Roman Reigns booking. I've never had an hatred for him, but I understood why everyone did because we just didn't know what they were going to do with this character other than just be, oh, he just beats everyone and gets a main event every single year. At least nowadays, when he's turned like heel and he's the chief, we get why he's elevated his character. But I've actually stated this before. I think that's when they should have done that same character the night after that mania because I think it would have made probably that mania memorable for the simple fact it would have been the start of that, but they never did. They were like 3 years too late. They had the match. People thought it was going to be Taker's last match with the way the ending was. But and we've talked about 35 and how flat that mania was in the main event. I've never seen a WrestleMania main event where people would flood to the gates. Like flood, I've seen it. Like Matt Hardy, everything like that. It was a decent enough mania. That main event happened, and I never seen people come so fast to go home and on like. Because he knew it was a load of bollocks. It was just a load of bollocks. And yeah, I think to me it's like really one of the worst moments. in Mania.
It's funny because
Um,
it's pretty much the exact same feeling in that main event as the year before. Whereas I mentioned, I didn't even watch the Triple H Roman Reigns match, and I don't think I watched Undertaker and Roman Reigns either. It it was predictable, it was silly, it was in your face, and it was basically, I don't know. I'm so glad to see Roman Reigns the way he is now because he was shafted massively by terrible creative putting everything behind him
And Vince McMahon.
at that point.
so the I agree with you, Jamie. It made no sense because if you're going to have Roman against Taker, then surely Taker should have been remained undefeated, and Roman should have been the guy to end the streak.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because after that Mania, they had like match made for Roman where it's my yard now, it's the big dog's yard.
Mm.
Like
You
it,
could have
it
torn
didn't
them
make
out.
sense because he had already lost to Lesnar. There was no momentum in beating Taker in Mania because he lost to Lesnar. So if
Mm.
that was the plan, then at 30, Lesnar should have lost. 31, he beat Shane, and then in 32, you
No,
know,
31 he fought very well. And it was 32 he
31 he
fought.
wasn't there. He missed 31, didn't he?
No, he fought very well on 31.
He fought Bray Wyatt. He beat Bray Wyatt. Another person probably should have ended the streak. Uh,
Mm.
like, yeah, just for me, it just it not nothing against either of the two
No
lads.
fond
The rest
memories
of the
of
main event,
it.
it just fell flat.
Literally, there's no fond memories of it. No one can sit here and go, "Oh yeah, I've always liked Roman." Like, come on, you sat there in that position watching WrestleMania 33, thinking, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna look forward to this match against Undertaker."
I
Like
think
nobody
it,
liked Triple H, but I got why Triple H. Yeah, it was predictable, but I got why they put him over against Triple H. It was a longer build for that. This was literally like he eliminates him at the Rumble. Oh, this is it's like kids in a fucking playground. It's like, oh, this is my yard. No, this is my yard. Let's have a WrestleMania main event.
I think if you did it, if WWE did a top 10 playlist and called it "But Why," that match has to be in the top five because "But Why."
Yeah. But why indeed? And in fairness, if you think about it, the other things that were built up around that mania, you could have put anything else. You could have put Goldberg and Brock. If you kept Owens as the Universal Champion, Owens and Jericho, you could have put in Jesus, I don't know, Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton, because they were better storylines going into it. You know what I mean? They were actually ones that everyone was looking forward to seeing. Roman Reigns and the Undertaker is the main event of WrestleMania that year. Yeah, I'm not interested. And that's just one of the things about it that made everyone hate it, including myself.
It just seemed like
Yeah,
they
I
were
think.
shoehorning Roman Reigns
I
in
think
to that spot every single year at that point, and it was tiring. I dropped out a lot, like I say, round those sort of periods. You were kind of kept in the loop by AJ Styles debuting and stuff. I'll come back and see what that's all about, Nakamura, etc. But it was actually a pretty tough time. It's up there with the PG era, or down there with the PG era, in my opinion. That kind of insistent on Reigns being that man. Yeah, I'm with you.
I'm jumping back in because you've actually awoken perhaps the worst booking decisions in WrestleMania history within my mind. Stop
Mm.
me if I'm wrong. Please stop me if I'm wrong. I don't think I am. I'm bringing us back to WrestleMania 34, where
Mm-hmm.
two of the biggest jambles in WrestleMania history took place. The first being Asuka's streak going kapoof to Charlotte Flair.
Mm-hmm.
900 plus days undefeated to lose to a poxy cartoon figure for leg lock. And then the second one being, I think Jay's going to disagree with me on this one, but the whole booking of the Shinsuke AJ match. Because we all know
No,
that
I
those
agree.
lads got a wrestling clinic.
No, I agree. No, and the thing is though with Tony, I'm not gonna sit here because I love AJ and I love Cena. When I see bad, and it's not their fault. It's not Nakamura's fault, and it's not AJ's fault. I remember when I watched New Japan at first, and I think one of the first Wrestle Kingdoms I watched, looking back on it, was the Wrestle Kingdom when Nakamura faced Styles for the IWGP Intercontinental Championship, and it's probably one of the greatest matches I've ever seen in New Japan. Honestly, that match was unbelievable. It was the first time ever. Same with you done with WWE, but you didn't mark it as the first time ever. Just everyone knew it was, and they just let them guys put on an absolute clinic. And I think Styles was going to go to the Royal Rumble anyway, and he's going to get signed for WWE. And then, you know, he lost and got kicked out of the Bullet Club, and then Kenny Omega became a leader, and it kind of transcended that whole weekend. Kind of transcended professional wrestling in a way, because if you look at it now, if Styles never decided to go to WWE, would we be sitting here going, "Oh, AEW's on Wednesday," or the Elites, or Cody even coming back to WWE? Would we be talking about that if AJ never went? So that whole weekend and even that match is actually a lot bigger than what people think. And with what they did at WrestleMania 24, like what Tony said, it was horrendous. It was choreographed horrendous. They could have put on a better match. Nobody was interested. I was left disappointed. And then I remember that year then when they had the field. This was literally the field. Low blow, low blow,
It was so
low blow.
strange, wasn't
And it's
it?
like
Like I,
it's
I,
like
I
I
feel
remember being at SmackDown and I was like, I'm seeing AJ Styles for the first time live. And what was the end of the match to determine the match for Money in the Bank? Low blow. I was like, fuck off. Honestly, God, like I was just pissed off at all.
I feel that particular mania in those two particular matches, the people that won should have been the people that lost.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't disagree. And I don't think as well, like, again, it's typical of Charlotte at that point. Yeah, um, the wrestling wrestling princess or whatever. I know she's like the queen, whatever, but
Now,
the way that she was booked just pissed me off as well.
I feel horrendously bad for Charlotte at the moment because she's out for an extended leave. I think a year and a half. She's completely destroyed her leg knee
Yeah,
from
yeah.
that fall on the top rope.
Yeah,
But make no mistake about it, for anyone that's watching and listening, I know we're all excited for Becky and Rhea and the potential of Liv and Nia getting thrown in. If Charlotte Flair wasn't injured, make no mistake about it, Charlotte Flair would have won Elimination Chamber and we'd be getting
yep.
a rematch from the main 84. Make no
It
mistake about it.
it's like the what's the famous Triple H streak that he goes on? What do they call that again? The Reign of Terror. Charlotte Flair's
The
always
Reign of
had
Terror, yeah.
that. But for me as well, just going off the back of that, I think I was actually well disappointed in that match, the Styles and Nakamura one, possibly particularly, although I loved Asuka at the time. I thought it's okay because afterwards, one of the things I was most excited for, which I'm surprised I didn't bring up as my most hated moment, because I think to this day I can't tell whether I loved or hated it, but I was very intrigued as to who the hell Braun Strowman's tag team partner was going to
Oh,
be
Oh
Jesus.
yeah,
for that tag team championship match.
I
And
absolutely hate it.
I'm going
I
to
think
quote my fellow Scotsman and my best friend on this. I will never forget we watched this together, and his words ring in my ear. Fucking Nicholas! Fucking Nicholas! Who the fuck is Nicholas? And that was yeah, to this day, like to this point, yeah, I will laugh about it. I remember it fondly because of how much Aaron and I would laugh about it. But see, the time, I was furious. Like I was expecting anything, like Steve Austin coming. Who knows? It's WrestleMania. Anything can
because
happen.
yeah, because you had said that WrestleMania. You had said you've already said that the most tone deaf WrestleMania was WrestleMania 32.
Yeah,
34 has to be right up there beside it as a tone deaf WrestleMania.
Oh yeah,
I think
yeah.
you
There's
guys
no
are
doubt about
convincing
it.
me. You're well up
Like
there.
like
Well up there.
if I had to pick the most piss poorly booked WrestleMania, it's either 32 or 34. And 34 probably nudges in front by a photo finish because not only did he pick a 10-year-old who had no business being in the ring, no disrespect to the 10-year-old, the next night of Raw, they relinquished the title. So why bury the bar? Like,
Yeah,
the
do you
momentum the
remember
bar
the
had going into that night was ridiculous. And to bury it and then vacate the titles was the most ridiculous booking I've ever seen.
It was brutal, absolutely brutal, because he wasn't able to wrestle. It was a throwaway moment. It was silly because it was as if they had this plan and they couldn't actually adhere to it. So they just threw in this guy instead. John Cohn, the referee's son. Fair enough. But
Mm.
you already had this whole Will Taker wrestle, Will Taker not wrestle, and you had that 2 minute weird match with John Cena, who was in the crowd and then ends up getting a match because for some reason he just coaxed the Undertaker, like, hey, I want a match, I want a match. You got a fucking match, 2 minutes. Great. Thanks for coming. It's like, yeah, okay. You're convincing me here because it's very much on par with WrestleMania 32. This is not a good period of WrestleMania. Is it 32 to
Really what?
34 here?
Really what?
2016 to 2019, I think that period wasn't great at all.
No.
Like
Thank God for the
2015 was a
Hardys
great
return.
year, but after 2016, it was just dead. After 2016, everything was just real.
Yeah. Yeah. Even going to 33, like 32, 33, 34. That's three piss poor WrestleManias in a row. Because going to 33, you've got things like, Lesnar and Goldberg in 4 minutes. Everyone's
That's
like,
what
all right.
45 was there, though.
You had the fucking
What?
maggots, Randy Orton with the bloody worms that were in the ring with him and Bray Wyatt, which was odd that Orton went over and Wyatt never got its big moment. Strange, um, 3 strange years. Very strange.
What was the main event of 34?
Main event
It
of
was
34.
fucking normal.
Yeah, Lesnar
Yeah,
going
pretty much.
over.
Yeah, and then he after the match then threw the belt up into McMahon. I think he called him a dickhead or something like that. But he was even
Oh,
pissed
I've
off
seen
at
that
that man.
footage. So
Yeah, and then that was when Chris Jericho got up into his face.
we're definitely not going to end the episode of talking about Brock Lesnar because I'm looking at the time here and I think we're well into the hour 40-minute time frame
Right.
and
Yeah.
we need to
We'll
be
go.
careful. But we are gonna
One
we
more.
are gonna end this podcast, keep people happy. So you go around one more time, but this time I want is our favorite WrestleMania moment or a WrestleMania moment that's near and dear to your heart. If that makes it easier for you.
Can I actually say?
Yeah, go for it.
Please
So
do. I need some time.
yeah, no, it's not that right. I'm gonna go personal again. I think with the WrestleMania moments, I think everyone has all similarities when it comes to moments, whether it's the worst or whether it's the best. But I think personally, because anyone who has gone to a WrestleMania will feel this. I felt like when I hear my ticket got scanned in and I was in MetLife Stadium, to know that I was at a WrestleMania was like a dream come true. Like I really got so excited. I literally screamed, "I am at Wrestle fucking Mania." It's like one of the biggest things I've ever did in my life. And I know I look back at it now and I didn't like that Mania. I loved the first part, the second part I hated, and it felt miserable that night. But I still have fond memories of I went to my first Mania. It was a dream come true. I think that's a personal favourite of mine because I was there and I said I did it, and I've always wanted to go back. Now I think it's like I kind of lost a bit of interest in it, ever since coming back, with wrestling because I think lockdown was.
Oh no.
Mark, would you like to go next, or would you like me to go next to give you more time?
You can go next. I need some time to
So
think.
I'm gonna go with one that's near and dear to my heart, and it will always be near and dear to my heart. So I mentioned that one mania that broke me was 36 because I couldn't be there, and I missed out meeting so many people. But let's get to the other side of the cover. WrestleMania 38, Dallas, Texas. The fourth mania, I got to get back in the plane and travel to the States, and I was excited beyond belief for this because my all-time favorite wrestler is Stone Cold Steve Austin. He is my hero, and in that in that state in Dallas, well, a little bit out of Dallas and Fort Worth, I got to meet Stone Cold Steve Austin, shake his hand, tell him what he meant to me, and then the very next night, I got to sit down near enough to ringside because me and my friend talked our way to ringside and listen to that glass shatter and watch that man come to the ring. Something I never thought in my life I'd get to see. Stone Cold coming to the ring and wrestling. So that moment at that WrestleMania lives rent free near and dear to my heart. Like it's just for me, it's a moment that will always spark happiness to me because I got to be there, I got to shake his hand, I got to tell him what he meant to me, and I got to watch him wrestle. Not many
I
people
love
can say that.
No, I absolutely love that and jealous of the fact that I have not actually been to a WrestleMania or really
We'll
met
get
that
you to it.
many
We'll get you
wrestlers.
to it.
Oh yeah,
I'm in triple in debt at the moment.
we'll be going together. But
Oh,
yeah,
2024, yeah.
so I've gone. My favorite moment is still the Hardys return, just for the story of watching that in the crowd, like I say. But I'm not going to go with that. I'm going to go with another one, which is a great one to end with. And for me, it is that iconic moment of where again WrestleMania is at its best when the world stands still. WrestleMania is the best when words aren't required, and sometimes you just watch and stare. And speaking of stare, that's exactly what The Rock and Hulk Hogan did to each other for how long before locking horns? The
Unfortunately.
world just stopped, and it was iconic to see those two stand there. Love or hate both of them, whatever your thoughts. As far as wrestling goes, two of the biggest names, both on Mount Rushmore for sure. And yeah, that match with them, um, certainly that opening bout, the fact that they on the fly decided to have them both sort of turn and work, and that the heel became the face, etc. It's an incredible story that was told in that match, and one of those that you could just watch again and again.
That's a brilliant way to end it.
It is absolutely. And I was thinking to myself, none of us have mentioned WrestleMania 18. Is someone going to mention it? No better way to end it than mention perhaps one of the most electrifying matches, electrifying moments in wrestling. Period. The
Yeah,
biggest star of the 80s, the biggest star of the 90s, noughties. The stare down was probably more electrifying than the stare down of Andre and Hogan, which like
yeah.
you didn't think it'd be
No,
topped than it
honestly.
was.
But yeah, that is a brilliant way to end it. But do you know what? For someone who has only gone to one, every single, and I do this all the freaking time, every single year when WrestleMania comes out, the back of my mind, I'm always thinking about I'm gonna go to it next year. Now, I wasn't really into Philly this year. I said that to Tony last year. Now, I don't know where it's going to be next year. Most likely it's going to be in Minnesota, as what the rumors are going around. I would love it to be personally in Vegas because I think it'd be better. It'd be a better attraction. Yeah, it would
The
be expensive,
expensive,
but
the only thing.
yeah, it would be. Yeah, true. But I want to go back to WrestleMania because all this gets me excited. The whole point of going over, because I want to go to a WrestleMania where I can remember fondly and remember the 2 nights and go, oh, I loved every single minute of it. And hopefully I will. But Tony is going to be going in a few weeks. He'll be going to his third WrestleMania in 6 years, 5 years.
Yeah, yeah,
You know what
five
I mean?
years.
So 5 years. So I mean that's good going. But I say you're looking forward to it, Tony.
And we're going to continue with WrestleMania team stuff for the next couple of weeks and weekly controversies.
Mm.
But I'm going to hand back to Jamie because he's gonna bring us home.
I am going to bring us home. But we were going to get into questions, from yours, and I have done, but we're going to wait until next week because we have really gone so deep dive into our favorite moments and our worst moments. But we're going to end it here. Don't forget to check us out on Instagram, Weekly Controversies 1. Check us out on the Spotify, where you get on the podcast, on the FiveMarks Weekly Controversies, also as well on YouTube. I have been Jail. That has been Tony. That has also been Mark, which thank you, by the way, for coming back on, Mark. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you again.
My pleasure, guys. Loved it.
Mark, if you're around
So,
next week and you are free, be more than happy to continue this conversation.
Let's do it, boys. Stick it in my calendar.
absolutely. So we'll be talking more about wrestling on the week. Don't forget to check us out on YouTube, on the podcast, or channel, and you'll see